In order to survive, organisms need to maintain homeostasis, a state of internal balance in the body. The body must constantly be self-regulating, and this task is performed by the endocrine system.
St. Paul the persecutor was a cruel and sinful man. Jesus hit him with a blinding light, and then his life began. I said yes. I said yes.
The prefix endo means within. An endoskeleton is a skeleton contained inside the body, while an exoskeleton protects the outside of the body. An endothermic reaction takes in heat, while an exothermic reaction gives off heat. In the same fashion, exocrine glands secrete products, like sweat, mucus, and saliva, on the outside of the body, while endocrine glands release their products into the body. The products endocrine glands produce and secrete are chemical signals called hormones, and there are a lot of them. Some hormones are also neurotransmitters, and most of the communication in the endocrine system occurs in the bloodstream. Hormones are released into the blood, which is slower communication than that of the nervous system, but longer lasting, as it takes time for the enzymes to break down the hormones. Hormones regulate growth, including metamorphosis in insects and plant growth, as well as fruit development. They regulate sexual behavior and homeostasis, which entails a lot of things, such as metabolism or the immune system. Some hormones exist just to activate other hormones, and this is what is known as a cascade. The chemical structure of a hormone determines whether it is water-soluble or lipid-soluble. Hormones made up of amino acids, whether that be a peptide of several amino acids, or just a single amino group, we call those monoamines, are water-soluble. Hormones made from steroids are lipid-soluble. Water and lipid solubility play a role in how hormones are received. Hormones only communicate with specific cells, known as target cells. These target cells have receptors that are either within cytoplasm or on the membrane of the cell. Water-soluble hormones cannot pass through the bilipid layer of the membrane and interact with receptors on the outside of the cell, while lipid-soluble hormones can easily pass through the membrane into the cell.
Augustus knew temptation. He loved women, wine, and song, and all the special pleasures of doing something wrong. I said yes. I said yes.
The hypothalamus is where the nervous and endocrine systems meet. It has temperature-sensitive neurons and can detect when substance concentrations are off-kilter. The hypothalamus is responsible for the function of negative feedback loops. This just means that the body secretes hormones as needed and shuts them off once the satisfactory conditions have been met. The hypothalamus produces oxytocin, which stimulates lactation in the breasts and uterine contractions during childbirth, and antidiuretic hormone, known as vasopressin, which signal the body to retain water. The pituitary gland sits just below the hypothalamus and is best described as the master gland of the endocrine system. The pituitary gland contains two lobes. The posterior lobe secretes the oxytocin and antidiuretic hormone produced by the hypothalamus, and the anterior lobe secretes various hormones. These hormones include those that stimulate the adrenal glands, hormones that stimulate the thyroid, growth hormones, prolactin, which stimulates milk production, and follicle-stimulating and luteinizing hormones, which play a role in the development of the reproductive system and stimulating the production of testosterone and estrogen. The pineal gland secretes melatonin, which creates a sensation of tiredness, in accordance with the circadian rhythm. The pineal gland also uses cholesterol to synthesize testosterone and estrogen. The thyroid gland is located on the neck and is significant to the body's homeostasis. The thyroid maintains homeostasis by secreting hormones that regulate the body's temperature, skin moisture, blood pressure, tissue growth, appetite, the secretion of digestive juices, and the blood levels of oxygen, cholesterol, and calcium. Calcium is useful for muscle contractions and bone growth. On the back of the thyroid gland, there are 4 parathyroid glands, which secrete hormones to regulate the calcium and phosphate levels in the blood. The thymus is below the thyroid and sits in between the lungs. The thymus is integral to the immune system, as it secretes thymosin, which is a hormone that stimulates the production of T cells. The adrenal glands sit right on top of the kidneys and secrete adrenaline and cortisol in stress response. The adrenal glands also help the kidneys maintain salt and water levels. The kidneys themselves secrete hormones that stimulate the production of red blood cells in the bone marrow. The heart is technically a gland, as it secretes natriuretic peptides that lower blood pressure. The organs in the digestive tract produce gastrin, which stimulates the secretion of gastric acid, and somatostatin, which inhibit these hormones, as well as ghrelin, which stimulates hunger. The pancreas, in particular, secretes insulin and glucagon, which lower and raise blood sugar respectively. Adipose tissue, or fat tissue, secretes leptin to inhibit hunger and consequently lower fat storage. The gonads in males are the testes, which produce testosterone, and in females the ovaries, which produce estrogen and progesterone. Testosterone is responsible for the development of male characteristics and the production of sperm. Progesterone and estrogen are responsible for the development of female characteristics and the production of eggs and the menstrual cycle. Estrogen is linked to the production of serotonin, which creates a calming effect, and the drop in estrogen production plays a role in the mood swings of a woman during her menstrual cycle. Earlier I mentioned hormone cascades, and there are two major ones in the body. The first is the hypothalamic pituitary thyroid axis, or the HPT axis. In the HPT axis, the hypothalamus sends a signal to the pituitary gland to secrete hormones that cause the thyroid to secrete hormones. For example, the HPT axis would be responsible for having the thyroid secrete hormones that stimulate muscle cells to transcribe DNA that makes enzymes break down more glucose. Consequently, more ATP is produced, and this is what is known as metabolism. The process produces energy for the body, some of which is used as heat. The second is the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, or the HPA axis. In the HPA axis, the hypothalamus signals the pituitary gland to signal the adrenal glands to release hormones that usually regulate the processes of digestion, sexual behavior, and immune response. In a stressful scenario, the HPA axis, as a companion to the sympathetic nervous system, enters the body into a fight or flight state. The sympathetic nervous system increases heart rate and directs blood towards the muscles. Cortisol shuts down non-emergency functions, such as the immune response and sperm or egg production, and increases blood pressure and blood glucose levels. This increase in blood sugar would allow for more ATP or more energy to be used. Thank you for watching this video. All sources can be found in the description.